Okay, welcome to a side part. I struggled with this for a long time because I started doing hair in the 2000s when girls would come in and they literally would part their hair on the side of their head and push it
Comb over.
Did you ever do this with me?
Oh, I had a hella comb over.
Drove me nuts. So I had to figure out a way because they would come in and they would say, this side doesn't have any movement. I'm like, 90% of your hair is parted on the other side. And so I had to figure out a way to make it balanced. So I already pre-cut the layers in the back following my normal guide. I just chose this length of layers so you can see how in the crown these fall around here. Can you see that in the camera? Okay, but if I pull this same hair up here, it hasn't been cut yet, but let's say I pull it to the same length. When I come down here, one's higher than the other, right? So you can't cut your layers square and even on both sides, because if you do, when they fall, one's gonna be shorter than the other. So you have to approach them differently. Everything from behind the ear, do the same. Get your guide, decide how many layers you want, continue it through to the side of the ear. But then, as you move forward to the front, you're gonna wanna do the heavy side that has more hair first. So you're gonna go ahead and follow through like we did before. So I'm gonna take diagonal forward. You can see I'm not gonna be cutting into zone 2. Oh, no, it was already cut on that section. So now I'm gonna keep going. Cutting my layers. Bring all of this up. So now we have our layers on this side. And they're all the way to right here. So if I cut again, if I cut this right here, which is pretty much already that length, let me go ahead and cut it. It would be way longer and you wouldn't have any movement on this side. So here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna find out where their part is, and this is usually side parters that have this issue are ones they have a definite part, right? It doesn't move around. They're like, this is my part, it's on the side of my head. So what you're gonna do, come in here closer, Sydney.
Okay, Sophie, sorry.
What you're gonna do is pick this up from the highest point of the head, wherever the highest point of the head is. If they have a weird shaped head and it's up here, whatever here, find the highest point of the head. Then you're going to take a piece of hair from the other side of the part and you're going to pull them down until they're even down here. You see that?
Yes.
So, okay, now they're even, and I'm gonna use this as my guide now. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut a little guide right there.
Scary.
Very scary. So we're gonna check it. There it is. So now it's that different on each side. But when they come down, they're matching, right? So then what you do is you take a section from the back of the head and that crown where your layers are in the back, going to the front, and you're gonna see your guide when you pull this up. And it's not going to be short to long. So you can see these are the layers back here. It's actually going to go short to long from the other direction. So these were the layers in the back. I'm cutting down to that guide in the front, and I'm gonna continue to go down all the way to the front. So it's opposite angle, it's like opposite day. So before moving on, I'm gonna check again to make sure. Take one from each side, pull it down. Okay, great, they're coming down to the same area. So now, how I normally, like I said before, I'll pivot from the crown. This is actually now where I will take a traveling guide and over it back like typical layers, because it's really important to use this guide from these short hairs. So I'll go ahead and take a vertical section. I'm still trying not to cut into zone 2, so I'm gonna elevate as high as I can. Here was my guide. This is hair from zone 2, and so now I'm gonna start cutting short to long again, so that it still will fall. You'll have the short layers the same on both sides, and you'll have the same movement down there. So using that guide from the part, short to long this way now, not cutting into zone 2. So then, when we look at her layers, they're the same on both sides. and she has just as much movement on this side as she would on the heavy side. Then you would still want to go ahead and do whatever face framing. If they have layers this short, there's definitely some amount of face framing. So I would go in and do the same thing, taking the hairline, doing that, and connecting it through. Did you have any questions about that, Sydney?
Nope, makes total sense.
Oh, one other thing with this. If she does say that her part travels just a little bit, but it's still far enough over to do this technique, I will lift hair up from both sides, and I will just slightly take that corner off. Traveling forward. You can see the difference between the two. Just to soften it, just ever so slightly. It'll still fall on top of the other side like that, but it won't be as heavy. But that's not always necessary, especially if their part never changes. So I don't really cut it off, because then you would have, again, super short layers on this side. It's just that 1 or 2 hairs from the differentiation that you're just blending a little bit. There you go.